Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras, a podcast about project and product management, communication, brand, and IT. All these topics will definitely improve and have a positive impact on your career. So join me today, subscribe, and expect a new episode every week. Thank you. Today, I'm thrilled to have Magda Okrzeja, co-founder of a tech startup and a seasoned expert in product and engineering. With a background that spans across GE Healthcare and Qualtrics, and now venturing into the entrepreneurial world, Magda's journey is empowering and inspiring. And I really mean it. It's not a buzzword. And together, we will dive into her startup adventure, the lessons learned, and her advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Welcome, Magda.
Thank you, Beata. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And we're finally doing it. It's been a while we planned that, actually, right? I think back in March.
Yeah. We tried to meet from March. Yeah, exactly. But with your busy schedule as a startup and entrepreneur, startup owner and entrepreneur, I know it's a busy time for you. So I was waiting, and finally, yes, we are here. We meet and can discuss your experience and your lessons.
Thank you. Let's do this.
So Magda, could you walk us through the inception of your startup journey? What was the kind of spark that ignited your desire to co-found your own tech company?
Yeah, very deep question. To be honest, I think I had a spark like early on when I was a kid. I was this kind of a weird kid that was trying to sell chocolate bars to the neighbors. So I think I have it in me. Actually, interestingly, no one in my family is an entrepreneur. Like most of my family is actually people working 9 to 5. So I didn't have any example, to follow to actually start this journey. That's why probably for years when I was studying, I was actually suppressing this. I was suppressing the need of like doing anything in the business. So I went for IT, actually. I started studying software development, software engineering. So actually it was a computer science and econometrics. So there was still, a little bit of economy and a business in it. And then for years I was working in IT, software developer, engineering manager. And at some point I was like, I have to do something with my life, actually. If I'm going to look back in 10 years, have I done all what I planned for myself, So I think the COVID was also a very triggering moment in time when, everyone had a lot of time to reflect. And I also started to reflect on my career, like this is probably the right moment. So that's how the journey started,
Yeah, when we have a lot of time to reflect, when we finally sit and have time to think, a lot of reflections and ideas is coming to our minds. So many people is actually talking about COVID, but it brought a lot of course, bad things, and but on the other hand, we finally had some time to slow down.
Yeah, definitely.
And Magda, for those who are thinking about starting their entrepreneurial journey, what are the most do's or essential steps to transition from the idea to execution?
Yeah. So I would maybe respond, I could respond that question like directly on this. Now, here's the list, like 5 things you should do, right? But the reality is that, no one is really ready what actually happens when you start, start this journey, right? So I would say that no one should actually think from the perspective of being ready, because no one is ready. There is a really well-known quote of Muhammad Ali. I think he said that everyone has a plan after they're punched in the face, right? So it's more like that, right? Now I know it, right? Because I started doing this for the last few months. But my recommendation to everyone out there, especially women, right, is that probably you just have to basically start doing it. I mean, there is a couple of things that I could probably give advice to. Like, I think it's the best to have some proper career before doing the startup. So obviously there is a lot of young people out of the college starting a startup life, and this is also fine because in a startup you have probably two people that are very successful. Those who are really young, they don't calculate the risk. They don't really know what they don't know, so they can do that. And there are also people who are highly intelligent and they're very aware of the, what's in front of them. But because of the high intelligence, they can actually somehow manage the fact that it's such an unknown, basically. So if we think of this, chart, right? Or what are the people that are like starting the startup? Probably those that are unaware, or those that are too much aware of that. So I would suggest basically to just learn the basics, have some initial career in IT or anywhere else, so you will see your own eyes how the company works, right? Because when you are very young, you don't really know about all the operational burden that is there to build a startup. And when you actually had this career, I mean, at least like a 3 years or something of working somewhere, you know what the what hiring process is, what the what the performance management is, right? Like, all those things which are very boring, but are part of any kind of business, and you have to be ready to it's just not like a beautiful story for 5 young people just building coding something in their garage and here's the startup. It's more like a something that requires people to really know the what kind of structure they have to look for in the next few months. So this business is actually a working business.
Yeah. Although, yeah, you said, about very young people that are unaware of the risks or that something is not possible. Yeah. And sometimes I think it helps a lot. Yeah. When you're,
It helps a
older,
lot.
when you have a career and you are like highly intelligent and aware of the risks, and you know how to calculate it and so on, and some decisions which you actually should take and sound like insane. I think it's easier for the younger generation to just
Yeah.
go there and try, and sometimes oops, they did it because they were not aware that it's not possible.
Yeah, and they are young enough to try and have many failures, right? And people like me, which are like 40 or something, they don't have that much time to learn and fail, right? So I'm really jealous of all the young people out there trying to build their startup. And but my advice would be just go for like a year or two or something, work somewhere, so you will know this boring stuff, and
Yeah.
then you can start this amazing startup journey, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes it's also like necessary to do this boring stuff. I mean, there is like a lot of boring stuff, and you have to have like, you need to have that kind of commitment to, okay, this is the boring stuff, but still I have to do it so the business still is like,
Exactly.
running. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because it's very easy to be resilient and doing it when you think of this all amazing things like what may happen to you, like going for conferences, pitching up in front of people, just having those meetings with kind of wealthy angel investors, right, that are talking to you and interested in what you're actually building. Like, you can show off basically yourself, right? But then there is the other part of the business, which is very kind of difficult, boring, and you have to be able to handle that. And not every day is pitching in front of people, right? The everyday work is rather like how to manage your everyday to be on schedule, what you plan to build, what you plan to do, right? And that's why I think a resiliency is like the most important part of that. And you have to learn, to do both the fun stuff and the boring stuff.
Yeah. To connect mind and heart.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, and in your journey, what were some invaluable resources or support systems that helped you to navigate the startup ecosystem?
Mm. Yeah, very interesting question, because in my case I had none. I had none contacts. Like no one was like in the startup community from my friends or family. So I really started from like a point zero, you know. But looking back, thinking what could be the the best resources to have to start, and despite obviously any kind of skills. I mean, skills are extremely important, but they are not everything. You can be amazing in something, but you may not be the best fit for doing the startup, right? So I would think of a two resources that are extremely important. So network, just surround yourself with the like-minded people. I think it's crucial. I mean, I've done that very late. Before I actually started the startup journey, I applied for MBA for startups in Warsaw at the SGH University, and I think that was a pretty good move on my side, because that was actually the main trigger to do something more, because I surrounded myself with people that are building startups, build startups, or are very close to startups. And in the end, I mean, I just saw with my own eyes that, there are people out there who are interested in the same things that, and I'm not crazy. That was, I think, the thing. I'm not crazy that I really want to do that, right? So network, extremely important. Start doing it very early on, and you will probably be ahead of me, like, years when you be starting this. And the other resource, I think, I will just say maybe that's unexpected to call it resource, but I think you have to have self-resource, something in you that will make sure that you are resilient, and you can have a kind of a self-healing mechanism in yourself that you can actually survive every single day. And I think that's very important. So you probably need to have the resource of like some level of self development, self consciousness, that you can actually can do this, and nothing will just easily break you. Or if you count of people that, when the times will be hard, like there will be people around me helping me, probably not, because people are there when there's a success, right? So then you're surrounded by people. But when there is like like a dark times, probably you will have to deal with it by yourself. So equip yourself with some self-healing mechanism that you can actually turn on any moment that you need it. So don't count of like everyone around you to just pick you up, when you're down. Very harsh true, but I think it we should talk through here, how this whole journey looks like.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, and like thank you for actually mentioning that, because we hear very often about the need of having your like support system, like the closest one, the family, and friends. But there is also like this piece that you just mentioned about being able to self heal, because when you're in a really bad condition, you sometimes don't want your closest ones to be around you, and to because you're basically um, in this moment of your life when you just need to go through this by yourself and like process it and heal it, and then like go and ask for help or support. um
I may add to this that, if you feel like you are mentally struggling right now, before you even started that journey, should suggest to find some help, training, like do something about that. Because when you'll be in the middle of like doing the startup, I mean, it will be done basically. If you won't be able to manage your emotions and in the situation, um, you're putting yourself in a very difficult situation, So yeah, be ready, like mentally, physically, because even if you think like, oh, this is like 8-hour work or 10-hour work, like I know how to work 10 hours, right? But that's a different 10 hours, like that's totally different 10 hours or 12 hours during the day, because you actually working for yourself. So whenever you do, you have this like an instant, like constant thinking process in your head. Am I doing the right thing? Am I thinking of all the possible paths that I should take under consideration? So it's more exhausting than actually when you spend this 8, 10, 12 hours in a regular job. So I would even multiply it by 2, to be honest.
Yeah. And, you just mentioned actually that, startups are known for their high risk, but also high reward nature. And can you share some of the significant challenges you faced on your journey and how you overcame them?
I mean, there's so many small and, I would say almost irrelevant challenges, because if they happen, they're usually very, very kind of tactical and to the moment, right? So as I'm a technical co-founder, I'm doing a lot of kind of coding. I'm coding, like most of the, like 95 of this product is done by me, right? So I have a challenge every single day from the technical perspective. But I don't think that will be super interesting for all the listeners here. But what I can say, there's a major one big challenge in general for all of us in the startup. So for me and my co-founder Cassie, that we are in the space of sales tools, basically. So we have to deal with the fact that it's just a red ocean of sales tools out there, basically. So whenever we talk to VCs, investors, angels, mentors, everyone is saying like, "Girls, that's one of the hardest hardest markets you could choose, because the sales is a very, very crowded and also difficult space to be in, because selling to salespeople, like that says already a lot, right? So we have to be really like, our challenge every single day is like show up 100%, find our own angle, like for the product, how we explain the product, how we talk about it to people, how we're making sure that this message gets across, because in reality, the product is just a kind of 50%. The other 50% is how we're going to sell it, how we're going to explain what we're building. So I think that's the biggest challenge every single day, where technical challenges are just, I would say, not that hard, because with the technical challenge, you just can go Google it or use ChatGPT and ask a question, how to solve this or that, and you get the answer. It will take you time, but you can easily get the right answer. But with this whole go-to-market strategy, how we gonna present ourselves, how we going to stay bold and unapologetic about our vision, because we have a very ground vision, it's just two women doing the startups where we say that we're going to replace CRM systems in the future. Like we're saying that traditional CRM systems are like done, like it's, we're doing something new here. So we have to be also very unapologetic and think of all the time how we present us and what we do to the audience. And believe me or not, that's the biggest challenge that I see so far. So you can't show your 80% to people. When you're doing this, you have to always show your at least 100%. So that's why it's extremely difficult every single day, because obviously you have different stuff going on in your life personally. You may have a bad day, but it all doesn't matter. You have to manage it, because one day you may have a call with someone super important to your startup. And if you'll be like 70% in it, you will lose the opportunity, So that's the challenge, in my opinion, constant.
Yeah. Like now the question comes to my mind, like, how are you doing that you're always like, 100%?
You know what? I was thinking about that. And in my case, I think also in case of my co-founder, Cassie, we are both kind of experienced founders, right? Because we had this leadership journey before. I was an engineering manager for a few years. She was VP of sales for a few years back. So I think thanks to that roles, we actually managed how to show up, to people, how to show up in conversations, how to make sure that people get, your 100% you, right? Because those roles, like especially leadership roles, are very like judging, and people judge you every single day, how you look, how you feel. Like they will get every single, even small signal that something is wrong. And actually, this may turn against you, right? Because you're not 100% your best, right? So I think experience. I mean, for those who are not experienced, maybe the lack of experience is also a way because you don't really know the risk and the struggle. So you basically doing your best, right? But if you have this background, this baggage behind you of like managing people, you basically learned how to do that. I would say this is learned. This is not the skill that I was born with, basically. So, and I think we're both doing that pretty well. I think we are in general very resilient and hardworking. So it was always like that, that we were trying to show the 100%, and it just stayed with us, and we're just repeating what we learned and what we've been doing in our previous jobs.
Well, that's interesting, like to, hear how your corporate and leadership experience actually is like helping you right now with building the startup. But also, like building a startup from scratch involves wearing many hats. So,
Yeah.
how do you balance the demands of product development, engineering, and also pursuing an MBA?
I
How is that
don't.
possible?
I don't balance that. I mean, I know everyone these days is like about the whole kumbaya. You have to manage your personal life. You have to have this life balance. More mornings doing the meditation, late night jogging. At the end of the day, and I'm not like that. I think I'm kind of a person who loves being 100% in what I'm doing right now, and I'm fully aware that I have to just put aside some things in life for the sake of just the fact that I just got this opportunity in front of me, right? So yeah, and there's this super interesting article by Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI. I think the name it's called How to Be Successful. I think that's exactly the name. And there was a super interesting quote that I just started live with that quote, that extreme people produce extreme results. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like all the people that I know who are successful were extreme in some sense, right? They're usually, you clearly see that they're kind of different, versus the rest of people out there, right? And this extreme could be shown in different flavors, right? I mean, my extreme is that I'm not a I'm not the life balance person. Actually, I'm fully aware that I have to like do this 100% for the year or two, maybe a little bit longer, but I also plan for like what's gonna happen later. So definitely I'll have some rest in plan. It's not I'm going to exhaust myself to the it's planned. So I'm doing this 100%, 150% even, but I also have some plan that probably after some period of time, I will have to reflect and make a decision if I'm doing this any longer, right? Yeah. So I have no advice for for managing it all. Actually, it's more like I mean, I'm I'm treating all of this as a kind of opportunity. I mean, maybe it will feel or feel weird that I say that I feel really blessed that it happened to me. All of that, that this journey
Yeah.
started. I met my co-founder. I've been, part of Antler cohort in Berlin where I applied and I got in, and this is how we met with my co-founder Cassie. I'm super blessed. I feel blessed by that, actually. I don't think it was fully a luck, but it was there was kind of element of luck, which is always important. You know, even if you're successful, you have to be lucky to some extent.
Mhm.
Even if you are the one causing this lucky environment for yourself, right? So I'm trying to be grateful for all of that. So I'm just trying to put all my energy to just thank the universe, yeah.
Yeah, as we were talking before the recording, trust the process and trust the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we called our startup A Mars, because we're not aiming for the moon, we're aiming for Mars.
Oh wow. Okay, now I understand it. Wow, that's a good idea. Oh
Yeah,
my
that's a
god.
that's a one layer of the name. So yeah, it just shows kind of our aspiration, and how we're going about things basically. That
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I think you just, gave some advice 100% in, or even like 150% in, and be grateful. Magda,
Yeah.
you said like you're actually blessed by this opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think these are like very, very important advices because we very often like forget about being engaged into something, committed, but in the same time, gratitude. Yeah, because it's our choice, it's the opportunity that.
Exactly. And, I'm always saying that when something's happening in your life, usually all those things happen at once.
Yeah,
So people go easily like complaining, oh, I have so much stuff to do, right? It's a natural thing to complain. But then when you think from the other side, like when nothing happens, like literally nothing happens, crickets. And then people start complaining, oh, nothing happens in my life, basically, and all of that. So when looking from to those two perspectives of like complaining on something, I would rather complain when nothing happens than so much things happening to me. So yeah.
yeah, and you have so many like learning opportunities, both on tech and business. Yeah, and how do you blend your tech expertise with business insights gained from your startup journey?
Mm. Yeah, as I mentioned early on, I mean, it's never been like for me IT or business, right? I was always looking for something in the middle, and I think what prepped me very well for this is that first half of my career, around 10 years, I spent in business intelligence. So I was technical in a technical role, but I was doing a lot of reporting for businesses. So this way, I think I learned talking to business people and understanding what are their expectations, what are their needs. So it was always kind of natural for me to think from that perspective. I'm not the technical person that will tell you that. I mean, I'm not crazy about like technology for the sake of technology. I'm always trying to think first, like what's the value in it, right? What's the value in that technology to be applied first for the business before I'm really applying it. So yeah, I think the business intelligence experience was super crucial in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and have you like encountered any surprises or new lessons along your startup journey?
Yeah, I mean, after so many years in IT in general and leadership positions, it's hard to be surprised, right? I think when I started doing it, I was like, yeah, I mean, it looks a little bit different, this whole startup journey, but it's not like I was not ready. It's like it's just a different flavor and aspect what I was expecting that to be, right? But what I learned a little bit about myself, to be honest. Maybe that's the lesson. Interestingly, interesting or not, I'm not the multitasker, and everyone who knows me knows that. When I'm doing one thing, I'm doing one thing. But I imagine myself that in this whole CTO role, I'll be a little bit more kind of multitasker. So I'll be able to like one day coding, the other day going out to people, and pitch or just combine the social kind of aspect of me with the technical aspect of me. And actually, I turned out that it's really hard to like switch, that easily, and especially when the business is not like a business that was for me when I was engineering manager. Obviously, I understood the business side. I was able to talk about the business perspective and value, but building startup is just another level of like strategic thinking. And actually, I saw that it's extremely hard to switch between those two tasks. And so I was trying to research like on it, like, why is it? Am I like alone with it? Is it like me or it's like a normal thing? And to be honest, I found out, and that was kind of discovery of me, that it's very normal, because there is a biological aspect that is involved in it, surprisingly, the social abilities, how we present ourselves, how social we are, is managed by the same part of the brain, like being reasonable, like being logical, like doing all this kind of deep tech work. So surprisingly, like it's called the prefrontal cortex, if I remember correctly. Like the same part of the brain takes care of like those two tasks. So being logical and being social, which explains why people can go like one way or another, basically. And when you can do your social part of like life, it means probably that you don't already have enough capacity in the same part of the brain. So that was interesting learning for me. I mean, I love learning such things and find the explanation why something's happened to me the way it happens. So now I'm planning my day slightly differently. So when there is a coding time, I'm just trying to devote the full day for technical work, and then the next day for more social or meetings. So not trying to mix, basically.
Wow, I just learned something new and started to also like understand myself better, because when I'm, for example, planning the podcast and like creating for example, the questions, or like planning the next release, I need like the full day on this. I mean, or at least like half the day. I usually do it over the weekend. And this is the day when I just, turn off my phone and no one can reach me. Yeah. Because if I go out with someone, then like it's
Yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like come
Or
back to
if you
that.
have a meeting at the end of the day, the whole day, what you're doing is actually thinking about that meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it's very hard to do the reasoning kind of logical work and also be social. So that explains a lot why we have so many people in the tech world not easily managing those two. But it's
Yeah.
also a choice. I mean, it's also interesting fact about that. It's also a choice. So it's not like you're not capable of both, because if you are great in logical think, you're probably also to some extent really good at presenting yourself in the social situations. But it's kind of a choice not to go one way or the other. So that's also
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. But actually, I'm also thinking like how, okay, I'm the person who like loves affirmations and meditations.
Yeah.
So I'm using that
I love that
to
too.
like,
Yeah.
to like switch off for a while, like my brain, and for example like reset and then move to another tasks. Yeah, like I almost like divide the days
Mm.
sometimes for, I don't say like half, but after the 9 to 5, very often I need like this 25-30 minutes break to just turn
Yeah.
off and start again. Yeah, and that's, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's why, like, when I think of like my dream setup for example, the development team, right? Because now I can
Yeah.
make a decisions here. Like, no one is telling me how to set this up. So I believe that setting the time work the way that you just don't have this unexpected meetings during the day that
Mm-hmm.
making you like not be productive in your technical responsibilities. I think that's the way to solve that problem. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no wonder why in a lot of companies they're like setting the Friday as a day without meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually because of that, because people are just trying to find a day where they actually can do very deep, mental work, right? But it should be
Yeah.
5 days a week, in my opinion, especially for technical teams, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Although, it's sometimes like difficult to manage because when you don't have, for example, the answer for a certain, task or the feature that you're building, and you cannot, for example, take the decisions by yourself like you do right now. So you can,
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I'm just telling, here like a kind of extreme approach, right? That
yeah.
obviously in the real life, it's not fully doable to just devote the time into like, I know, time when to code and time when to talk to people. But at least we should try. That's what I'm thinking. Like, at least for the sake of like having productive team, we should definitely try to not forget about our biological adjustments,
Yeah. Yeah. And having navigated for the tech industry for over 15 years, how do you see the role of women evolving in tech entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so much things has changed. Let me start with the engineering part, and then maybe I'll mention something about the startup as well. But from the engineering perspective, I see we are living in a different world, in my opinion, because the times where I was when I was starting, it was like 2006 or something. My first internship. The woman in engineering was a kind of um, let's say not something typical, so we were very questioned about like, are we productive the same way or skilled the same way as men, right? So maybe not directly, but I remember that in some indirect way I was facing this kind of disbelief, let me say that way. And now I don't see it that way. There's so many conferences for women in tech. There's such a support system around that, I mean, obviously the unconscious bias is still with us, but at least we are conscious about unconscious bias. Let me say that way. So definitely times are much, much better right now. For startup life, also, I think from the perspective of female founders, there's so many female founders right now. I was even surprised how many, and the same as in the with the women in engineering, because our lives has changed. The roles became less kind of traditional, right? So everyone is taking care of the family in the same equal way, right? We're getting more and more equal opportunities, so it will all combines into the fact that we have more doors open in a startup life and engineering. But there is unfortunately one area where we still lack a lot, and it's VC. So it's the money part, right? Unfortunately, in the VC world and the world of fundraising, women has a little bit less good position, I would say, right? Because most of the VC venture capital funds, most of the private money which people invest in the companies are unfortunately managed by older white men. And in reality, it's still with us. This kind of no one will tell you, because obviously this is not appropriate to mention that I'm not going to invest in you because like I'm not sure if you're fully in that and you don't have any other responsibilities that are just more important to you in your personal life than doing business. So I think we have a lot of space to improve in that space. But I already see a lot of like workshops for women who wants to enter the angel investing kind of activities or join the VC. So it's changing, but I think looking at all of those opportunities out there, I think the VC and private capital space is still like I probably would say 10 years behind how we think about women in engineering.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know
Yeah,
about this
because
space, like venture capitals and
yeah,
angel
if I may add,
investing.
that actually, when you see when you check the LinkedIn, obviously everyone is just, doors are open for women in like building startups. Money are out there. Like everyone is just saying that it's just so equal.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's only LinkedIn. Unfortunately, the reality is slightly different, but no one wants to say it out loud. So sorry.
So you're doing that.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
you're
that. Yeah,
genuinely have a
I don't feel like I experienced a lot of that. Actually, I think we both haven't experienced really that much of a kind of a not equal treat. No one is really treating us not equally because we're women. I don't feel that way directly because I think because we have more experience, basically, because we are experienced women. That's why probably not. But there is this kind of a vibe in the air that you have to somehow accept that is still there.
So, based on our conversation, what essential advice do you have for our listeners considering a startup venture with all the, shades of gray and everything?
I would give advice that I would love to hear a few years back. So don't overplan, and just start. And basically, you can't be ready for everything that will be in front of you in this journey, especially talking to female founders. If you think of like you're 80% ready, you're probably 120% ready. So you should start probably, right? If you rate your readiness on 80% as a woman. Yeah. And the other advice, probably, as I also mentioned before, having some initial career will definitely set you in a better position. But don't wait too long. I mean, there is this whole aspect of having energy and the time to build startup, which I didn't took really under consideration when I was like thinking of this. Should I do it before, like years before, or now? Now I know that the earliest, the better.
That's a very good advice. Yeah, don't wait, just do it, and
Yeah,
yeah, and
obviously in
see.
smart way, right? Smart way. So I'm not saying that everyone who's just finished high school can just jump on the startup wagon, right? It's rather, I would say, um, feel ready to some extent, have some skills, but don't overthink it, right? Because in
Yeah,
startups, you can't overthink things because you probably lose the game.
yeah. That's a very good advice. And as you look towards the future, both for your startup and your MBA, what are your aspirations or, plans?
Yeah, obviously, aspirations are high. I would not be doing it without having a lot of aspirations in it. I mean, obviously, it would be amazing that Aimers could become something big in the future. But knowing the statistics of startup, you never know. But thinking of more kind of immediate aspirations, what I would love to happen within the last, let's say, year for us. For me personally, obviously, my aspiration is to finish my MBA. Just finish. I mean, I don't expect like a high grades. I just want to like finish it and get it to the final line. With startup, I think it will be amazing to at the same time next year to say that yeah, we fundraised, we have money to continue this journey. And obviously, the biggest dream of mine is that our customers would say that, "Oh, I love your product, right? What you're doing is really exceptional for us, and we want to pay you for what you delivering." So that would be the best, yeah, to hear.
Yeah, and I really wish you that it will become true, and that that you reach where you planned and where you see yourself in
Yep.
weeks, months, who knows.
Yeah.
And where can listeners connect with you online to learn more about your journey or follow your
Mhm.
journey?
Yeah. LinkedIn is the best place, I would say. I'm not extremely active on LinkedIn, but I'm checking LinkedIn quite often. So yes, LinkedIn. And if anyone wants to learn about the startups I'm building, so go to amers.io, and we have a pretty nice website right now out there. So yeah.
Okay. I'll link it to the podcast episode description.
Thank you.
And Magda, thank you very much for our conversation. Thank you for all your advices and lessons learned on your journey. And yeah, I wish you a lot of success and hope to meet you this week.
Yes, exactly, in Warsaw very soon. Yes. Thank you, Beata.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe. Remember, this podcast is a dynamic journey and your feedback is very welcomed. Connect with me on social media. I would like to hear your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And until next time, keep doing it your way.